So Poland just chose between a conservative president and an ultra-conservative president, and it was incredibly close with the highest turnout rate in history. But they went with the ultra-conservative option with a razor-thin margin. To be clear, Polish presidential elections aren't that important. Poland has a parliamentary system, so the prime minister matters way more. Whereas the president has more of a ceremonial role, though he does have the very important veto power. But this weekend's election is a good opportunity to check in on Poland, kind of like a midterm election. So the two main parties in Poland are the Civic Platform, which is a liberal conservative party, conservative social values, very capitalistic pro-EU, and the Law and Justice Party, known in Polish as PiS, which is a nationalist conservative party with authoritarian tendencies that spent 8 years trying to turn the country into an Orban-style quasi-dictatorship until they lost the 2023 election. That's when the Civic Platform, the current government, won the legislative election and Donald Tusk became prime minister, and they ran their campaign on reversing the democratic backsliding that happened under PiS, as well as restoring abortion rights and a few progressive concessions to more left-wing voters like recognizing civil partnerships. The problem is, they've done none of that, apart from taking over the national broadcaster, which had become a propaganda network under PiS, and made it moderately better. They spent the last 2 years blaming their inability to get anything done on the PiS president Andrzej Duda and the conservatives in their coalition. Which is somewhat true, but they didn't even bother putting up a fight. And that's how we get to this presidential election, and the two candidates that made it to the second round are exactly who we expected. That's Rafał Trzaskowski from the Civic Platform and Karol Nawrocki from PiS. A Trzaskowski victory would have given the Civic Platform the ability to get more stuff done, but more likely it would have simply meant that they would have had to find someone else to blame for not getting anything done. While a Nawrocki victory, which is what ended up happening, maintains the status quo of a Civic Platform government under a PiS president. But the big difference is that Andrzej Duda, the previous president, is known as being a bit of a wet towel, while Nawrocki is more of a Trumpy type character who's going to put up way more of a fight and make it even harder for Tusk to get anything done. But in all of that, the really noteworthy thing is that while the two main candidates were exactly who we expected, the candidate that arrived in third place is this guy.
Nie chcemy Żydów, homoseksualistów, aborcji, podatków i Unii Europejskiej.
And this guy, who built his entire party and campaign on anti-Semitism, is fourth. So the choices were between the center-right, the ultra-conservative nationalist right, followed by the super crazy far-right, and anything center-left was all the way down in the single-digit percentages. And that is quite the political landscape to behold, so follow for more.